Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dash Sisters podcast. You're here again this Wednesday, and we are doing something a little bit different.
We figured that today we'd sit and discuss with you some of the stories that we've heard either growing up or later in life or wherever that kind of changed how we thought or
Mm.
made us ask questions that were complicated or stirred something in us.
Okay, I guess let's get into it. I asked myself a couple of questions when I was trying to decide what story. Everyone grows up in different cultural backgrounds and environments, and there's the stories you grow up with that are part of your ethos and world. There's stories that are told to you as you grow up, and then as you grow up and find your space and footing in life, there's stories that really touch you. And I found like there was that dichotomy when I was trying to make my decision. So I'm curious to see what your first story is gonna be.
Okay, so my first story is a Kannada folk song, actually. It's an
Oh, okay.
allegory. It's called Punya Koti Govina Hadu, which means Punya Koti, the story of Punya Koti the cow, okay, or the song of
Oh.
Punya Koti
Mm.
the cow. And it's something, and it was sung to me like when you were going to go to sleep, or because I love the story so much. Sometimes I'd ask my mother to sing it. As a kid, it always used to make me cry. And so today we will be unpacking that baggage publicly. um, but yeah, that's the story I want to tell today. I did take down some notes because the whole thing is Kannada poetry and folk
Mhm.
poetry, so I wanted to sort of get a broad translation in. So this is a
Okay.
story of Punyakoti, the cow. Okay,
Mm.
there was a cow
Mhm.
herder called Kalinga. Who he was one of those people who really loved his jobs. Okay, he loved his cows. He would bathe them early in the morning by the river. He would put tilak on their forehead. Because Indian cows, he would put tilak on their forehead. He'd take them to these really lush green meadows. He would sit under a mango tree. He would play his flute, and all the cows would graze. And in the evening, he would call out to them, and they'd all come rushing, galloping, so happy to be called back home. And then they would make their journey home, where he would milk them, and he had this like prosperous life and all of that stuff. And the cows were all really happy. Just a wonderful sort of setup to begin with, right? So Kalinga and his cows, all of them live near a village that's sort of nearby a forest. And the forest is where they would go to graze. The forest was also home to a tiger called Arbhuta. Okay? And Arbhuta hadn't eaten in ages. He was a starving tiger, which had made him an angry tiger. And so one such lovely warm day when the cows are making their way back home, Arbhuta plots his attack. Right? He is on top of this sort of rock-like thing, jumps onto them. There's a massive kerfuffle. The cows are running into each other and they disperse and scatter away. Who's left behind is Punyakoti, this single cow. And Arbhuta's like, that's it, my dinner's ready. He's about to pounce on her and kill her. And Punyakoti says, stop. I have a baby calf at home. Let me do this one thing. I'll go home, I'll feed her, I'll care for her, and I'll come back. You have rightly caught me. This is, in the grand schematics of the laws of nature. You have caught me. So I'm going to go feed him. Poor thing, my calf will go hungry. But let me do that and I'll come back to you. Arbhuta is, of course, like angry and, this massive monstery person. But there's something about Punyakoti that intrigues him, right? And so he says, I don't know, this feels a little bit like a scam to me. Why would you come back? Why would you come back to me at all? And then Punyakoti says a verse, which in Kannada, from folklore, it has sort of evolved into common parlance as well. And I'll just say that verse. She says, Satyave namma thai tande, Satyave namma bandhu balaga, Satyavakyake tappi nadidare nechana paramatmanu. Which means, Satya, the truth, is my mother and father. The truth is my family and friends. If I go against the word of truth, God will not be pleased. Right? So she says, this is the honor by which I stand. I'm actually literally choking as I say this because it used to really move me, okay? Anyway, so she says, I cannot go against the word of truth, and especially words of truth that I've uttered. So, you best believe, Arbhuta, I'm coming back to be eaten. So she goes back to her shed and she meets with her calf and she feeds him. The calf doesn't want to hear any of this. And he's like, who will I sleep with? I'm going to go hungry. Who will I play with? Who's going to look after me? Who's going to be there with me through my life? She turns around, she looks at all the other cows in the shed and she says, mothers, sisters, listen to me. Take care of this orphan, because he's going to be an orphan now. Take care of this orphan as your own. Look after him. Don't kick him. Don't goad him with your horns when he comes close to you. He's one of you now. And then she makes this like long, tearful, painful journey back to Arbhuta, right? Arbhuta standing there like, no chance this girl's gonna come. But lo and behold, Punyakoti arrives. And then she says, drink my blood, eat my flesh, ease your hunger. This is the law of the land. This is the law of nature. Now, Arbhuta is completely moved by this and shaken to his core. He cannot believe that someone would sacrifice themselves in the name of honor, leave behind this orphan calf and just be eaten. So he says, if I were to eat you, my sister, and he then recognizes her as a sister in the grand nature of things, right? Or the grand scheme of things and the laws of nature. You are but my sister. If I eat you, will God be pleased with me? I was okay till this point in the story. And then Arbhuta gets onto a cliff, jumps off and sacrifices himself and surrenders his life. That the story ends there. Punyakoti goes back to her son, her calf, and they live happily ever after. Every time when I was listening to the story as a kid, and this part where Arbhuta jumps off, I would feel this, gut-wrenching pain, because I'm like, but he did right. In the end, he did right. He was only, chasing his instinct, chasing his natural animalistic instinct. He was following the law of nature. And then later, when faced with morality and faced with the question of right and wrong and honor and all those other complicated, I suppose, what we ascribe as human feelings, he then does right. So why did he have to die? It would always sort of like kill me. And of course, there is the part of like this thing of sacrifice. I just kept thinking, Punyakoti, run. Why would you go back? But the fact that she goes back, and then there's this deep story of honor, and then the fact that Arbhuta sacrifices himself after, and I think that's so gut wrenching. I don't know. This is a story I wanted to talk about. What were your? I will say disclaimer: the times that I used to cry about this was when I was very very little, and although I did choke up a little bit today, but hush hush.
Yeah, my first thought was like, I've never heard this story before, and it's such like an innocent story with such sweet characters embodying such big themes. But also I feel like it says a lot about you too. I think,
Huh?
yeah, like I feel like you resonating with this makes a lot of sense to me. But also, what a sweet story. It's just a beautiful story, and it's asking such difficult questions, and the characters are so innocent and so pure, and everyone
Yeah.
is kind of, their compass is heading north to themselves, and everyone's honoring
Yeah.
that, which is such a big thing. Like who even does that in like today's world, at all? I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's one part of North Star, but there's also this point of honor above self, the other above self. Maybe there's a little bit of the modern, consciousness or whatever it is, but and this thing of self-preservation, and rightly so. I don't think that sacrifice at the cost of one's own detriment and the detriment of one's own family and people and all of that can be a bit intense. But I think these stories are about those moments when that sacrifice uh, is beautiful. It's for the greater thing. Um, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I always find it really difficult to sort of. My second story is also sort of in the same, uh, uh,
The honor.
a domain of not just honor, but this thing of I have two difficult right things. And right in two different ways. How do you choose that? You either choose that by allowing your morality to lead the way or by allowing your instinct to lead the way. And, on a good day, both of them are in alignment with one another. But what happens when they're not?
Wow.
What guides you then?
Mm,
To
mm.
me, that it really just it turns my stomach in this sort of, oh, this is such a difficult feeling. And I think though how people make those decisions over the years that may have changed, but I think those kind of situations come in front of us all the time. What guides you? If you're led by folk stories, you choose honor and integrity and all of that always. But sometimes you're just guided by heart. Then what? you know?
I have a parallel to an actual incident in our life, which kind of that happened to the two of us. I don't know if you remember this, but it made me think about it, so I'll share. We were probably again like double digits, like I want to say 10 or something. You came to hang out with me in my house in Bangalore, and we're just like playing games. Do you know where I'm going with this? And we're just like, as girls do in my apartment complex, guys, we were like the silliest kids, but like we like ring doorbells and run. And I'm like, oh my God, my best friend from school is finally gonna come and like do this prank thing with me. So I'm just like, Gauri, we're gonna ring it and then we're gonna run. So every single time we'd go to the like different houses and like call and then run away. Right?
Yeah.
But then oh my God, guys. We were at like this one place, one house, and we're
I'm
like trying
so
to run
nervous
away.
right now. I don't know this story. I don't know where it's going.
Really? Really?
No.
Okay, so I think it was like I want to say M block or whatever, but it was like
Mm,
one house.
mm.
Nobody we know. It's all strangers. But we ring the doorbell, and oh, sorry. Memory came back to me. It wasn't. It was calling them,
Oh,
and then hanging up. It was calling and hanging up. Okay, we did probably one or two. And the
mm.
third one was such a rush, so fun, like you call and then you hang up and you run away and we're like giggling. It was so fun. And then I don't know what happens. We call and we're like, hey, yeah, we did this prank call and then we're gonna hang up, right? And I'm like, Gotti, let's go, we gotta run. And she does this something that is like shocked me for the longest time, and it still shocks me. She says, no, we can't run. I'm like, are you freaking crazy? We need to run. You're like, no, no, no. And then you tell this uncle, like, no, it's me and Maithili, and we're just pranking. It's just a call. We didn't mean anything by it. And then you just like, you're so honest in the moment and you like own up to the whole thing. And I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like ready to run out, and you're just like owning up to this, and I don't understand how you had that in you at that age, like that whole like honesty thing, accountability thing, like yeah, it blows my mind. But I wonder if it's because you were told stories like this one that
Maybe.
could have like yeah, because I don't have a bone of that in me. Like, I'm just here for the fun, And so it was like the wildest thing for a young child to see her friend like own up to a bad act in the moment and just, take accountability for it. So, anyways, I thought about that.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah, so
God.
you're a good kid.
A good kid, maybe, but a pathetic partner in crime.
Oh,
Uncle,
that's
I
for
only
sure.
did it.
I'm hiring others right now. I've been hiring.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow,
Yeah.
that was a fantastic
Yeah.
story. Oh. But yeah, I think there was a lot of that. I think from my parents, I got a lot of those stories. I think most kids, most Hindu kids, at least in India, grew up with
Mm.
Ramayana and Mahabharata. And the thing about Ram was always he's honest. He's the embodiment of
Mhm.
truth. So this truth,
Mhm.
honesty was a recurring ringing bell at home. So maybe that's why. I don't know. Maybe that's
Mm.
why I wasn't the best candidate for Mango Heist also.
Yeah, it took so much freaking convincing. There's a theme, guys. Are you catching on?
Amazing.
This memory totally resurfaced out of nowhere. Like I didn't even know I had that in my mind till like I
Yeah.
heard this story.
Oh,
So
wow. What's your story for today?
So I feel like there's stories that you're just born into because of the spiritual, cultural background that you're born into, and there's stories that you're told growing up, and then there's stories that come to you later in life that really mean something and hit home. And I wanted to start kind of at the very beginning. And for me, being from India and being part of that spiritual cultural space, I was named after someone in the Ramayana, and so I thought I would talk a little bit about that because that's a story I was kind of born into in a way. So a very 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 long time ago in India began the story of Ramayana, where there were four brothers born to the king of a great dynasty of a great dynasty, and the eldest son Rama is married off to Sita. Her name is also Maithili because she came from a place called Mithila, and she was found from the earth. She marries Rama, and due to whatever reasons, they go into exile. Quite immediately post their marriage. And so Rama, his wife Sita, and Rama's brother Lakshman are off to a forest for 14 years, leaving behind their riches and beautiful empires and just down to their simplest clothes and into the forest, at which point a demon monster called Ravana kidnaps Sita and takes her away, very, very far away. And the rest of the story is kind of the brothers looking for her, getting together a monkey army, and everyone's looking for her. And it's a whole story of like search and longing and distance and sticking true to yourself. There's a lot of pain in this story because there's a separation from the family, and then there's a separation from her husband and her brother-in-law. So there's so much pain in that story, but she's always described as like the softest, most beautiful thing. You know, the clothes she wore, the jewelry she had or did not have on, but like even in the simplest of garments, she was beauty. And the way she walked through the forest bare feet, she was beauty, you know, and everything she was grace. And I think that's such a like powerful story, I think, to tell women. But it's also like embodying such huge concepts of like pain, and to come out of that extremely beautiful and shining. And yeah, I used to think about that a lot growing up. And you know, there were songs also, you know, my mom and dad would also listen to those songs with me, and you know, they would sing all songs in her praise, you know, Sita and Maithili and Janki and Vaidehi, just all these beautiful songs about how amazing these characters are, you know, glowing through time. So that it always kind of stuck to me. And there's some, you know, interesting parts of the story where some characters of the Ramayana are like immortal, and so my parents would tell me, you never know, there could be like a Hanuman somewhere, you never know, kind of thing. But I would think a lot about her. Like what touched me was there's moments where she's kidnapped and she's, you know, surrounded by demons, and she would look at a blade of grass and just have conversations with it, or just talk to it about truth and like big like life questions, and have like such patience to wait for years and years and not be upset and not be angry, which is like not something human beings can do. But she would always come out of it in such a strong way. What it meant to me growing up, because like we're all told these stories, but then to have her name, so to speak, and then to see what that means for me, because like as a girl, how do you relate to a woman who's separated from her husband, who has all these painful stories? I have nothing to relate to. But yeah, the only bits I could relate to are like where she's talking to a blade of grass and asking it deep questions about life and her pains and troubles and the universe and just beautiful things, and how like she was walking softly through the forests barefoot. So those are like two images that really stuck with me, and the only that I embodied. I wasn't talking to no blade of grass, guys, but I was
I was
like
gonna
as a kid
ask.
kind of like I just thought, why you were talking to the tree the other day? No. But I would like actually practice walking the way I thought she would walk, like softly with grace and quiet, you know, in
Yeah,
school and outside of school. And I'd be like, what does it mean to be grace, you know? So
yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a fun, interesting, like part of my childhood where I don't see her, I see myself as her, of course, but to kind of have something to do with her has always been a little bit about the stories that I grew up with. What do you think listening to all of this?
No, I wanted to ask you actually. I don't know if you
Mhm.
remember many years ago. I want to say at least 7 8 years ago, I'd gotten a text message from you. This was
Mhm.
yeah, I'd gotten a text message from you, and you had said, "Gauri, what do you think about the perfect Bharatiya Nari?" And I was like, huh?
Mm.
Immediately, huh? Because I think this was like we were in college probably or something like that. And of course, there's a little bit of context to why you asked me that. But I was wondering how much of your idea of an ideal woman comes from her. You did say you don't resonate with her in her contextual sense, but how much of yourself have you shaped around that idea? Not around Sita, but just this idea of this is what a good woman is, you know?
Mhm. That is such an interesting question, and we won't go into why I asked you that question that fine
No.
day,
Yeah.
but it's just like a whole long story, guys. But I think, yeah, like when I thought about it today, I'm like, there's a fine difference between the stories that we're told, the stories that we're born into, and then the stories that really touch us. And I think these are stories I was told. My dad would like sing songs to me about Maithili and be like, that's you, sort of thing. And it's
Yeah.
like the sweetest thing. They're trying to raise their little girl with beautiful values. I respect that. I appreciate them for the storytelling and for the beauty of the imagery and the concepts. But I don't know if I like saw myself in them. Like I didn't think I was born from the earth and nor that I will return to it when a painful thing happens to me in my life. But I think there were themes that resonated with me, right? Like the nature thing and just the beauty thing. I love that. Your
How
original
much of the idea
question.
of the good woman did you get from her? Or
Um,
even
to be
the
honest,
inclination to even be a good woman? Was Sita the motivator for you to say, I
mhm.
should be a good woman?
That is
You know?
so interesting. And to be honest, none of it. None of it. Like, I know I've had a lot of rules growing up, like, don't wear this, don't wear that, but none of it ever shaped me. And like, nothing came from my heart where I was like, because of this, I see myself to be, or this is in the image of the best woman, Indian woman, whatever. That none of that came intrinsically from me at all, even though those stories were there and they were trying to shape, you know, none of it. Like I think I
Yeah.
love the beauty thing, but that bit, but not like the themes and the morality. I don't know. It
I think, can
didn't.
I say, I think there are two stories of Sita, you know, which is
Mm,
one story is of that, this ethereal beauty, this salt of the earth
mhm,
kind of woman. She's both a
mhm,
princess, but also one of the people and grace and all of that stuff. And I think that's the part that screws with your head a little bit, of this thing of good woman, bad woman, all of
mhm,
that. I don't mean you,
mhm,
like one's head.
mhm.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the other part of the story, the reason why I asked how much of Maithili is Sita is because I was like, this thing of innate, that Sita courage bit of the story, right? She's
Mm,
unmoved, by circumstance,
mm.
unmoved by opinion, unmoved by pressure. I think you embody quite a bit of that. And also, but
Oh
also,
wow.
I thought that was so interesting because she is grace, she is poise, she is all of that. You do kind of walk like you're floating a little bit. Viewers, you should know this. When she walks, she kind of looks like she's either hopping about or floating. So that's cool practice came through. But also, Sita was always described as obedient, non-disruptive necessarily, at least not in the beginning parts of the story. Later, her husband questions her fidelity, and then you see this, feminine rage. Love that. But in the beginning parts, you don't really see that. But you're not like that. You're quite rebellious in from the get-go of your story. you know.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I feel like
so I
Gauri,
find that.
if you were born with the name of, if you were born as with like one of Sita's names, I think heck, maybe it would have like, because you have like a strong morality compass, I believe, like way more than I do. I think. So if you were a Sita girl, I think
all
it'd be
them
different.
all them cow stories.
It's just my boy Punya Cody. Sorry, my girl Punya
My
Cody.
girl Punya Gauri. Uh, yeah, mine is Parvati. Parvati's alias is Gauri.
Yes.
So I'm the other. I feel like theoretically we always say stories shape us, like the stuff that we hear shape us as we grow up. But like this conversation for me has like doubled down the theory somehow.
You think they shape us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God.
Mm.
I think also not just growing up, like my next story in line was something that I heard like 3 weeks ago. But it was another like blood curdling, gut wrenching kind of story for me. It's a bit of a historical story also. So I do apologize in advance for any facts and things that I get wrong here. I would of course urge our listeners to do their research themselves as well. But broadly, I'll give the schematic so that in any case, I wasn't like, oh, what beautiful facts. So let's move on. But
The story for the story. Yeah.
yeah, the plot line though moved me. No, this is more heart and sentiment again.
What's
Uh,
happening?
this episode's name is What's Happening? Love it.
What's
Yeah.
happening? I feel like we have a lot of options, by the way, for episode titles.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like, yeah,
Oh. I was gonna,
Punyakoti for one. It's such a
I,
cute name.
Punya Koti, the original Dash sister.
This is the point we reach in every podcast where nothing makes sense anymore. Where are you, Punyakoti?
This second story is about Panadai from Rajasthan, right? So Rajasthan, there's the region called Mewar, which has this massive Rajput dynasty and great many kings that come out of there. But the story is about Panadai, who was a wet nurse for this king called Uday Singh. Uday Singh was but a boy. I mean, and so wet nurse was somebody who kings would often hire, caretakers for their children who had children of their own. She would breastfeed both her own child and the son, so they were called wet nurses. And for years, she had taken care of this little boy Uday Singh. So in 1531, a king called Vikramaditya takes the throne, right? And reports say, now again, I haven't dug super deep into this in terms of historical research, but my general understanding is that he was a bit of a tyrant king. His cousin, I think it was his cousin, this gentleman called Banvir, wants to take over the throne. So he kills Vikramaditya, the king. He also has to make sure that this Uday Singh, who is Vikramaditya's son, the heir to the throne, is also cleared from his path, right? So and this coup is happening in this almost exploding way. Everybody in the palace knows what's going on, including Panadai, who's caring for the child, right? For both her child and for Uday Singh. So she sort of foresees it. She says, okay, Banvir has killed the king. I know where he's coming next, right? And then she has this decision to make because she has to care for the heir of Mewar. So what she does is, this is in the dead of night. Banvir is entering the throne, entering the prince's chambers with his sword. And before any of that happens, Panadai takes Uday Singh, puts him in a basket and gives it to her caretaker to take care, and puts her own son in Uday Singh's bed instead. Because she makes the decision that the heir of Mewar is more important in the grand scheme of things than her own son. And of course, Banvir enters the room. He says, where is he? She tries to put up a bit of a fight. But ultimately, she points to the bed where her son is sleeping, and Banvir kills him. This little baby, I think young at least, Uday Singh is taken away, is raised elsewhere, and many years later, he comes back and reclaims his throne. And throughout, of course, Panadai is there with him. This as a mother of sorts, having lost her own son. My parents had been to Rajasthan some time back, and they came back, and my mother was so moved about this, and my dad was like, oh, these people, their ways and their honor and all of that stuff. They were so sort of stricken by it, and they were telling me the story. And my mother, I assure you, she says the story 10x better. And so I was like in tears. I was like, why would you tell me this? This has ruined my life, because this creation that is made with your flesh and blood, you sacrifice for the greater good. I cannot imagine any mother knows a greater good than her own child. You know what I mean? But because this is the center of her universe, and then she chooses this thing, and she recognizes for the dynasty to live on, for the kings to live on, she has to make the sacrifice. Um, I will say this. I think there are complicated parts to the story, right? One is, you don't really want to glorify things like that. It is, I think, complicated and painful in so many ways, but also it was her choice, so you kind of have to celebrate her agency and her militant dedication to her own king, and that sort of stuff. And that's a very personal loyalty is a very personal decision to make. So Panadai makes that, and you honor her for it. But ultimately, it's her son, it's her baby. And how do you give that up? And that just tore me to pieces. So many things: loyalty, honor, love, dedication. And they kind of like throwing a stone into still water, because it just questions everything you know. And especially at this age, you feel like you've sort of made up your mind about certain baselines of your life, right? Certain bottom lines in morality and character and value. And then you're like, freaking Panadai, making me question everything all over again,
It's such a huge and powerful story, and it's unbelievable what those times must have been like, back in the day.
The interesting thing is, there's actually an award that they give in the name of Panadai for exemplary acts of selflessness. But what do you think about serving the greater good at your own cost.
Like, I feel like there are no examples that are as, of course, nothing to compare, but probably like smaller examples. I know that the work life culture in Japan is extremely oriented to the greater good at the
Mhm.
cost of self most of the time. So I get that aspect a little bit. It's quite like you work quite selflessly for one company for till you die, sort of. And it's huge like levels of loyalty, which also come like from that old samurai tradition where honor is a big thing, and if you mess up, you kill yourself, right? Seppuku. And then the question of what is the greater good, right? What is greater than your own family and your child? Like, hmm. And the final story that I will be sharing is a really short one, which is also from Japan. And so I'm not sure how many people already know this, but this is a story about a student who goes to a tea house to visit a Zen master. So when the student goes up to this Zen master, who is carrying forth a very long tradition of tea ceremonies, and this is in Kyoto, and it's in autumn. And so the student goes to the tea master, the Zen master, and the Zen master pours him some tea. And as he's pouring the tea, the Zen master asks the student, "What do you see?" And so this student has been learning a lot about tea ceremony and this whole practice. And so he really takes his time. He thinks about it, and he sips some tea, takes his time. There's like a whole ritual and routine. You turn the cup 3 times and you pick it up a certain way. And so he tried the tea and he thought about it, and he tasted it, and he responded to the Zen master in a very detailed way. He was able to describe the elements in the tea, the ingredients, how it was roasted, where the tea leaves were actually from, and which is very impressive. Obviously, these tea traditions are taken very seriously, and the tradition is centuries old. But at the end of that session, the tea master asked him again, "What do you see?" In the teacup, there's very little tea left, and the student took his time and he looked inside, he looked inside, and he looked inside. And in the end, he discovers a maple leaf inside the teacup. So he saw the reflection of a beautiful maple leaf from a faraway tree inside the teacup. And the story kind of ends there, but it sort of talks a little bit about like taking the time to kind of slow things down, to let things be calm, and for things to really show up. If you take a moment, and the reflections will reveal themselves to you, and they will be exquisite and beautiful. And I always love to think about that from time to time, because there's more in the cup than you thought there was.
You know those optical illusion tests where you have to blur your eyes to see something. You have
Mhm.
to look less to see more, kind of thing. Um, I don't know. This kind of reminded me of that because if you just keep looking at the bottom of the teacup, you just see the teacup. If you just let your eyes glaze away a little bit, and which is, I think, just symbolic to say, let your mind slow down, then you'll see more, which I think is lovely.
Yeah.
When you say Japanese tea house and a Zen master, I thought you were talking about the full teacup
Overflow.
full
Overflow.
story.
Yeah, I remember being told this story in Kyoto, like by my Kyoto poetry group that I was a part of, but the way they described like the maple leaf in the cup and like the hues of the red, it was so beautiful, just gorgeous. Like if you look carefully, there is a maple leaf in your cup. It reminded me also of like this Coleman Barks Rumi poem called The Listening. And there's like a line, and the line is, "There is a moon inside every human being. Learn to be companions with it. Give more of your life to this listening. As brightness is to time, so are you to the one who talks to the deep ear in your chest. I should sell my tongue and buy 1,000 ears." And it goes on, but I kind of love that like deep listening and deep being with yourself, and you won't believe what you'll see in your little cup. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that ear in your chest thing, which is such a lovely way of saying listening with your heart, you know?
Oh my
It's
God.
beautiful.
Yeah.
In all the deeper, softer learnings of spiritual being, there's always nature. There's
Yeah.
it's not that he saw the reflection of himself, it's that he saw a leaf, you
Mhm.
know, which I think is just lovely. Yeah.
Mm.
I like the stories one. This is
Oh,
fun.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yeah, I didn't know how we'd get here, but I like it. It was interesting. It took us
Yeah.
places.
And I think I like that it took us places when we were little and just like legs crossed, fist under your chin, going, huh?
Oh.
What? To now going, oh, deeper morality. I think that's nice.
Mm.
Nice way how
Yeah,
stories
and
grow with us.
the more we think about it, I know that there are more stories, to share.
Actually, we'd love to invite all our listeners to write to us on our Substack. You can just drop in comments and tell us stories that moved you. And
Oh,
maybe one of these
yes.
episodes we'll pick it up and we'll talk about it and have you on as a guest to discuss how a story changed your life.
I love that. I love that idea. Yes. If you have a
Yeah.
story, write to us. Come hang out with us. Come share.
Yeah. So thank you all of us for tuning in and listening to our stories and listening to how they made us.
See you next time, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you really soon. Thanks so much.
Bye bye.
Bye.